Welcome to this episode of Scoliosis Dialogues, the SRS podcast. I'm your host, Byron Stephens, and today we have a very special preview episode for the upcoming 33rd International Meeting on Advanced Spine Techniques, or IMAST 2026 in Toronto this April. Joining us this year are this year's IMAST program chairs, who are two fantastic spine surgeons and thought leaders in both adult and pediatric spinal deformity surgery, Doctors Amit Jain and Caglar Yilgor. Welcome, Amit and Caglar.
Thanks so much, Byron, for having us.
Thank you, Byron, for the introduction.
Yeah, thanks for making the time to meet, especially Caglar. I know this is late at night for you after a long day, so appreciate your being here. So to kind of start things off, as you both are well aware, IMAST has a long history of highlighting innovation, new techniques, and sometimes even controversial concepts before they become widely adopted. I'd love to start things off just by asking you a simple question to reflect a bit on how you first got involved with IMAST and how your previous experience with the meeting has evolved over the years as your careers have progressed. Amit, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. IMAST is a meeting that's known for innovation, and that has really stood out to me as I've progressed in my career. Believe it or not, I first went to IMAST as a medical student years ago, and I was just so impressed by the incredible amount of energy around different kind of new and innovative concepts. It was a great opportunity to meet all these world-famous surgeons in a pretty nice collegial environment that's very personal. And it's a really great opportunity to kind of ask questions to people who are leading the way in a variety of ways. Back then, a lot of things were really cool. Now, the pendulum swings, and now new things are cool. And it's always nice to know what that is, and people who are kind of leading the way with each of those concepts and techniques, be able to ask them personal questions as to how you could adopt those techniques or things in your practice. As I went from medical student to becoming a resident, to becoming a fellow, to then being a junior attending, to mid-career attending, I've continued to now kind of follow my IMAST journey. And what I've found is that I've learned something every time I've been to the meeting and really enjoyed those interactions. This year's meeting is going to have a lot of super innovative themes, and I'll let Shala kind of weigh in on some of those new concepts that we're bringing on.
Yes, I think the story is pretty similar for me. It's been more than 10 years that I joined my first IMAST. And what I like about it is that you got to learn these innovative new things, but at the same time, you also understand, how to preserve patient safety and get the trust, because the new technology adoption, how you consider, so you learn all these stuff in IMAST, all the new stuff, not only the ones that are already in the practice for so long. And this year, what we wanted to do is a first time concept in IMAST is that we added something to the first day, which always started as cases and cocktails to start with. But this year, we just took this concept and started with the first session before the cases and cocktails, which is mastering early practice. And this will be a combination of the early practice and the giants in the field. So we'll talk about the lessons learned with the gray hair, and then it will give a start before we go on to the cases and cocktails.
Yeah, it's always nice to talk about our complications, and it's really kind of humbling to hear some of the very accomplished surgeons when they talk about theirs and how, things they ran into as traps early in practice and mines to avoid that the rest of us can learn from. So I feel like just having that level of vulnerability with some pretty senior folks is nice to be able to expose the entire surgeon crowd to, because it kind of humanizes the fact that all of us are in our learning journey, some of us earlier, some of us later, but nonetheless, it is a journey.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, that speaks to sort of the emphasis on mentorship of the SRS at large and everyone's willingness to help those behind them. And I think that's truly one of the things that makes this organization so special and so great. And starting off with a session like that really, I think, speaks to the culture of our organization. So Amit and Charlar, I'd like you to talk a little bit briefly about all your hard work as IMS program chairs this year, and maybe one or two other things other than the opening session that you're personally most excited about.
Yeah, I think IMAST and SRS both really rely on a village of incredibly dedicated and committed surgeon volunteers, as well as an incredible SRS staff that kind of does all the background and behind the scenes work to enable it. I think, just me being involved with the process from a leadership perspective this year, I really learned how much time goes into and how much thought goes into all of these things, and the amount of accountability and the amount of people's kind of excellent thoughts, and how do you bring all those things together. It's really amazing. Like, our surgeons are so dedicated to making sure that we put out the best content in terms of education, in terms of abstracts. We really kind of are very rigorous, so that the science that's being put out is really thoughtful. And then we really try to kind of do it in a way that's diversified, so it's not that we want to give everybody a chance, and we want to make sure that different types of viewpoints are represented and different concepts are represented. So I think the diversity, the real kind of depth, and cutting edge, I think those are the three things that I found particularly interesting.
And for me, I think this was also a very interesting journey that we started a couple of years ago when we were introduced to the committee, and we have learned from the earlier IMS chairs. But now doing it seems a little different because seeing how things roll out, everything is organized. But what I liked a lot about this was that when we were doing the abstract sessions and we were trying to put them together and try to get good, three papers back to back to have a good discussion. And then whenever we finalized the session, I remember talking to Amit and saying, hey, this is interesting. I want to be in that session. So I really think we were very lucky with the submissions that the White Cloud session and the adult and pediatric papers that we got, the cervical papers, the quality safety papers. I think, all of the sessions that we put together, I know there will be a very good discussion, and people will enjoy the abstract as well as the educational sessions that we put together.
Yeah, we really try to think about, what is stuff that is going to stimulate people's thinking, what's going to push the envelope, what's going to allow people to really reflect on what we're doing in terms of status quo, and how do we push it forward. Because really what IMAST is innovation and kind of pushing the envelope. It has a rich history of that, and that's what we wanted to bring together in a program that's still quite scientifically rigorous. Just to give you an example, there's a lot, we had a ton of submissions this year on AI, and we wanted to kind of put together a bunch of really kind of clever papers that enable people to do very interesting things with AI, and that inform, patient decision making, patient outcomes, and so on. And that's pretty cool. And you'll see that as part of the meeting. Similarly, we really wanted to kind of go back to the basics in terms of tips and tricks. So we have a really great video session that we have brought back, where it's master surgical techniques with video, where people are not going to talk about their technique, they're actually going to show videos, which is really cool. Because I feel like I personally, as a surgeon, learn a ton when I watch someone else do something. So how do you do something really slick? How do you kind of have someone who has a ton of experience doing VBT, or a ton of experience doing anterior column stuff, or whatever? How do you kind of teach that to other surgeons in a way that's approachable and really thoughtful? And I feel like video is a great communication tool for that. So that's pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, that's
The one session, I'm sorry, the one session that I'm pretty excited about is actually the second day, the session that's right after the hands-on workshops, is that we'll have a panel discussion, and it's on design thinking and innovation in spine surgery. What I like about this is that, yes, IMEST is all about innovation, but we are not only there to find out about the new innovation, but also it's about teaching other people how to innovate as well. So I think the discussion topics that we've put together, and the moderators and the panel is going to be very strong, talking about how design thinking and innovation in surgery, how you can navigate those. And we will talk about the principles of industry partnership and how to move research into practice, and also how to consider and implement these new technologies. As I said before, also at the same time, while doing that, preserving patient safety and trust without, stifling innovation. So that I think will give a good kickstart after the first day and the welcome reception. We'll start off strong with this panel discussion.
And it's really world-class faculty who are leading a lot of these things. I mean, that session is being led by Sukin and Chris Ames, who are really kind of at the forefront of leading a lot of those concepts. So I think the idea is, not only exposing surgeons to what's innovative out there, but really, as Shala said, how can they be part of the process, be part of the innovation process? And similarly, in addition to the main program, we also have a series of these side innovation theaters this year, which is going to be really exciting. So it's essentially kind of open stadium style seating with some innovation workshops focusing on a variety of different themes, ranging from value-based care and how do you kind of negotiate with your hospitals when you think about bringing new technologies in that Rod Sethi and Eric Kleinberg are putting together, to other kind of concepts like AI and so on. So I think there's going to be a lot of really cool content that people will get a lot out of.
Yeah, that's great. I think particularly important when you're putting a program like this together, in my opinion, would be selecting people with the appropriate amount of experience, right? Who can tell you what has worked well for them in the past and what maybe has not, and the lessons you can learn as a young surgeon or trainee, I think are invaluable. And so kudos to you guys for putting together such a great team of people for the program. Amit, there's a session on the learning curve and master techniques that I think you talked about a little bit about. And this approaches things like prone, transpsoas techniques and advanced lateral techniques. Maybe you could just give us a minute to talk about that and the sort of evolution of that approach and how surgeons should be thinking about adopting it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting as new technologies and techniques come around. It's always fascinating to me going to these meetings and meeting somebody who said, I tried that 20 years ago, or I tried that 30 years ago, or we used to just call it a different name, but we used to do basically the same thing in a different kind of clever way. And it's just so fascinating because I feel like what that shows me is, it's good to realize that the world is constantly reinventing itself, and sometimes things fall out of favor for one reason or another. But it's always good to have a broad set of skills and expose our surgeon audience to those broad set of skills and interactions so that people can really kind of have a full palette to choose from when they decide what's most appropriate for their patient. So we intentionally were very thoughtful about really making sure that as many different techniques and concepts were going to be presented at that session, as opposed to just kind of the traditional posture-based approaches and so on, because we wanted people to kind of know what the full palette is. And we really went out and sought out people who we felt were kind of thought leaders in that space to share their experience with the rest of us. So I'm personally very excited about that session. And in addition to that, I think there's going to be lots of opportunities at a meeting like IMAST to really pull these people aside, after the session, before the session, and say, hey, I have a silly question. What type of bird do you use? What type of bone graft do you use? What type, things that just like are like the nitty gritty. And it's just so incredibly valuable, just being able to kind of pick someone who does this all the time and be able to learn from them.
Chalar, there's another panel on that I saw, making adult deformity correction more predictable, which has topics everything ranging from biomarkers to digital technology. Maybe expand upon that a little bit and tell us what trends you think will be in this session or others that will change practice in the near future.
Yes, this is actually a session that's put together by the Adult Deformity Task Force of the SRS. So I think that's also very important in that sense, that there's so much work behind this that has been going on for quite some time. And this will be moderated by Ferhan Pelize and Robert Islak. So here we'll be talk about the bone health assessments, sarcopenia, biomarkers, and here we'll also have a discussion uh, going with the a point and counterpoint about the digital wave. So and then at the end, what we'll do is we'll get a panel together and discuss on how spine world is now doing about digital health and what the future is looking like with the digital twins and all the other uh, opportunities that the AI is bringing us. So we can discuss about making adult deformity correction more predictable, how to choose the patient, when is the exact time to operate, how we can um, prehabilitate these patients into the surgery, and then also not only predicting what's going to happen, but when we have a better prediction to start off, if we can prevent these complications from happening, and finally at the end get a better outcome with our adult deformity cases.
And Shala and I cross over between pediatrics and adults. So we wanted to make sure that we were thoughtful in ensuring that our program appeals to both sides of the audience. So we really, focused on a lot of really good pediatric concepts with really cutting edge kind of things there in terms of motion preservation surgery and so on, as well as stuff that appeals to our, hardcore peds colleagues in terms of neuromuscular and early onset, and make sure that that's well represented as well, because those are super important topics that sometimes don't get enough light.
Yeah, for sure. That's, actually one of my favorite things about the meeting. And I always, see my, I'm a exclusive adult surgeon, but I see my friends and colleagues from the pediatric side, and I always learn something every single time. And kudos to you guys for putting together such a strong program that will that'll attract both sides of our organization.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the beauty of and it's exactly what you said, Byron. I think the beauty of this meeting, and there's a lot of meetings people go to, and sometimes you have this meeting fatigue. But the reason I always look forward to going to IMAS is I feel like I'm going to learn something new, and it's not like a meeting where I'm just going to go socialize. I truly walk away with new concepts, new techniques, new ideas, new things that I'm tracking over time before I kind of dip my feet into it or whatever it is, right? And I feel like that degree of development as a surgeon really takes a lot of commitment. And I've really found that my commitment to IMAST has led to excellent growth in my own personal career. So I'm very grateful for that.
And may I also add to that by saying it's not only about the peds versus the adults or the combination surgeons, but the SRS leadership has several years ago added this concept of doing combined sessions with the partnering societies. And I think we have done here a good job with the partnering as well. So in day 2 and day 3, we have 2 sessions from the Canadian Spine Society, and then the next day with the DSPN. The Canadian session is going to be based on debates. So we'll have 3 topics. One is the AIS correction, one is high-grade spondies, and then about the timing of surgery for AIS. So we'll get one side, we'll listen to the side, and then to the other side, and then we'll get the rebuttals. We are getting prepared on this session. I think this is going to be very nice. And the ESPN session, I think, is also going to be very special this year, because it's also about integrating new technology and the new techniques, talking about all the 3D printed implants, sacroiliac, fusions, prone laterals, and outpatient setting, setups, endoscopy, and these type of new techniques is going to be there. So I'm pretty excited about the partnering society sessions as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the partnership with other societies, but also with industry, is a critical element of a successful IMAST experience. And again, kudos to you guys for putting together such a great program that accomplishes both of these goals. Are there any other sessions that we missed or things you'd like to highlight?
I would just say that Toronto is such a great city and such an underrated city. It's one of the great cities of North America, really beautiful, easy to get to, and I think it's just a great place to kind of vacation as well. So I feel like if that's if the program itself is not attractive enough, that could be another reason to kind of take on that trip. It's just a fun place to be.
And while talking about the concurrent things, we'll also have the Innovation Theater this year as well. You know, while the other sessions are ongoing at the same time, within the Innovation Theater, we will have the e-points, and then we'll also have some talks where we put together industry and surgeons together, or other organizations. We'll talk from how you go from a napkin to actually commercialization. We'll have a special session on MIS deformity. We will have another session on AI there, and we'll have a session on value-based care. So I think the Innovation Theater will also be like within the exhibit hall, and it's also going to be something that people are going to love.
Awesome. I'm getting more excited about the meeting as we go through everything. You guys have really packed a lot into this. Great things are in store for everybody who attends. Finally, before we wrap up, what advice would each of you give to someone attending IMAST for the first time, whether they're a medical student, a resident, fellow, or an early career, or even a mid or late career surgeon?
I think I would say, regardless of your stage in your journey, I would just go with an open mind, try to make as many new friends as possible. And these friendships can really be quite meaningful and quite eye-opening. And I felt like I've over the years made a lot of amazing friends thanks to IMAST and SRS and that network, and I really am very grateful for that. So I would tell people, go with the attitude of trying to make new friends.
Yes, and exactly to add up on that is, don't be intimidated, walk to anyone, ask any questions. So this was what I did 10 years ago. You just go, and you'll be surprised how, friendly and helping everyone is, regardless of their name, and regardless of the years they spent in their careers. They would, talk to you and answer the questions. So don't miss the opportunity.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to wrap it up. I want to thank you again so much, Amit and Caglar, for joining us today and spending your time with us. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in. And want everybody to enjoy IMAST 2026, but be sure to register before the March 12th early registration deadline. And we'll see you in Toronto.